Hello crochet lovers, welcome back to our channel where we learn to crochet step by step. If like me you have ever wondered what's the difference between these 3 stitches in relief, today is the day we'll answer that question. We'll begin with the bobble stitch or piña and garbanzo in Spanish. Then we'll continue with the popcorn stitch, also known as bodoque or palomita in Spanish. And finally, we'll see the puff or avellana stitch. We'll begin with the bobble stitch. So I'll begin with a sample of 14 single crochet stitches. For this I made 15 chains, and then 14 single crochet stitches. And we'll see that the bobble stitch creates the relief to the back of our project. So we'll work on the rows that are towards the back. So for this row we'll begin with 1 chain, we turn the project over, and now we'll make 2 single crochet stitches. This is for the sample. We can later combine on our bobble stitch with any other stitch we want. Right now, in that 3rd stitch, we'll make our first bobble stitch. This will be created by crocheting different double crochet stitches together. I'll make 5, which is the more usual number for bobble stitches. So in that same stitch, we'll make 5 double crochets together. We begin with the first double crochet, but we'll only pull through the first 2 loops. The other 2 will remain on the hook. And we'll have to do this 5 times. That was 1. This would be the 2nd. Now the 3rd time. Then 4 times. Remember, we're only pulling through the first 2 loops, and the rest remain on the hook. And this is the 5th and final one. By now we should have 6 loops on the hook. We have the 5 loops that correspond to the 5 double crochet stitches we didn't finish. And the first loop is the one we already had on the hook. So what we'll do now is pull through all of those loops at the same time. We yarn over and we pull through all of them together. And that's our first bobble stitch. Like I said before, if we want to see the relief, we'll have to look at the back of our project. So now I'll make 2 single crochets, and we'll notice that thanks to those single crochet stitches, the relief will be much more visible at the back of the row. And thus we'll create the bobble or garbanzos that give name to this stitch. After those 2 single crochet stitches, I'll make another bobble stitch. So remember, it's 5 double crochet stitches together. This is the 3rd attempt, the 4th attempt at a double crochet, and the 5th attempt at a double crochet. We can make more or less depending on how puffy you want the stitch to be. And now we'll pull through all the loops, including the very first one. Remember that it's the single crochet stitches, the ones that bring out the relief to the back. You can see it now. Without those single crochets around it, the stitch looks less puffy. So I'll just keep going with my sequence. 2 single crochet stitches and 1 bobble stitch until we get to the end of this row. I have finished now the last 2 single crochet stitches, and we have finalized the first row of bobble or garbanzo stitch. Now we'll make a normal row, so we make 1 chain, turn the project over, and for this one we'll make single crochet stitches. We begin with 2 single crochet stitches, 1 in each of the stitches from the row below. And now it's time to work on the top loop the bobble stitch created. This stitch also creates a top loop made of 2 loops right here. So we'll look for it, and in there we'll make 1 single crochet or the stitch our pattern needs us to make. I'll just keep going for now, making single crochet stitches for this sample until we get to the other side. And if we repeat rows 2 and 3, we can create a sample like this one. Remember, this is the bobble stitch that we combine with single crochet stitches. Now we'll see how to make the popcorn stitch. We'll begin the same way, with a sample of 14 single crochet stitches for which I began with 15 chains. And you'll see that the popcorn stitch we will have the relief to the front. So we make 3 chains to bring this row a bit higher. Now we turn the project, and those 3 chains work as if we had used that first stitch. So we go to the next stitch for this row, in which we'll make 1 double crochet. This is just for the sample. Later on you can combine these stitches with any other stitches you want. And right now we'll begin with our first popcorn stitch. For this one we'll make a cluster of 5 double crochet stitches in the same stitch. So we begin with 1 double crochet, this time we'll complete it. Right there we make the second double crochet, then the third one, and so on until we have 5 or as many double crochet stitches as you want to make for your popcorn stitch. I chose to make just 5. I have completed the fan of 5 double crochet stitches, and right now we'll release the hook and leave that loop open. This loop will wait for us a little bit, and we'll insert the hook in the first double crochet from the fan. Be careful not to go to the double crochet we made on the individual stitch. We have to insert the hook in the first one from the fan, and now we'll look for the loop we left there waiting for us. We insert the hook there and we'll pull through that loop and then through the first double crochet from the fan. Now it's time to pull extra hard, and that's it! Our popcorn stitch is finished. So we'll keep going. For me this means to make more double crochet stitches, and like I said before, if you noticed, you'll see that the popcorn stitch creates the relief to the front. So we'll see the puffier side facing us while we make it. Now it's time to make another popcorn stitch, so remember we have to make 5 double crochet stitches in the same stitch. I made the first one, then the second double crochet, and so on until we get 5 double crochets in the same stitch. I have created that fan of 5 double crochets. Remember that now we need to leave that loop waiting there, and we go back to the first double crochet from the fan. We insert the hook in it. Now we insert it back in the loop we had left there. We yarn over and we pull it through that loop and the first double crochet from the fan. After this, you just need to pull hard and your popcorn stitch will be ready. So this is what we need to do for the sample. We make 2 double crochets and 1 popcorn stitch until we finish the row. Perfect, we have finished the first row of popcorn stitches. Now we'll make the next row. And for this we'll make 1 chain, turn the project, and we'll make 1 single crochet in each stitch available. We're working in the double crochets from the previous row. And now it's time to crochet in that popcorn stitch. This is its top loop. Be careful not to mix it up with any of the stitches from the fan. So the best thing to do is to lay the row flat so you can clearly see the top loop from the popcorn stitch. In there we'll make 1 single crochet, and now we make 1 and 2 in the double crochets from the previous row. And once again we have to work on that popcorn stitch. That's the top loop. Those are the other types of rows, and if we repeat rows 2 and 3, we'll get a sample like this one. And now we'll learn how to make the puff stitch. And it's the one I used for a gorgeous slouchy beanie that you can find on the pull-down eye. We begin with the same 14 single crochet stitches, which are the ones we've done for the other samples, and for the next row we'll make 2 chains. The puff stitch has the height of a half double crochet. So we turn the project and those 2 chains correspond to that stitch. So in the next stitch available, we'll make 1 half double crochet. In the next stitch, we'll begin using the puff stitch. This is basically done with a series of half double crochets stitched together. I will make 5 half double crochets together. So we yarn over, insert the hook, and pull through, and we leave those 3 loops on the hook. We will not work with them for now. We do this a total of 5 times. That's 1, so we yarn over for the second time. A good trick for this stitch is to create big loops so that they are all the same height. This is the 3rd time, the 4th one, and the 5th one. You can make more or less depending on how puffy you want the stitch to be. And by now I should have 11 loops in total. We'll pull through all of them together. One tip is to set the hook looking down so that it does not pull any other loop. And now we pull through all of those, including the first one. Now to finish this off, we make 1 chain, and we have completed the first puff stitch. This stitch ends up having a very similar texture on either side. So we get to choose from which side we want it to stick out more, by pushing it a little from the back. Now I'll make 2 half double crochets to create the separation between puff stitches. But this one has a million possibilities. We can combine them with chains, single crochets, or double crochets. It's up to each of us and how we want to use it. I'm about to make a new puff stitch here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 attempts at a half double crochet. And then we pull through all of those loops we have on the hook. To finish this off, we'll make 1 chain and then we just repeat the sequence until we finish the row. This is how the row of puff stitches should look. Now we make 1 chain to create the new row. And what we'll do now is 1 single crochet in each stitch available. I'm working now in the half double crochets from the row below. And when we get to the puff stitch, remember that we created 1 chain, which will be leaving free of stitches, and its real top loop is a V leaning to the left. In there we'll make the single crochet that corresponds to the puff stitch. And then we make 1 and 2 in the top loops of the half double crochet stitches below. And we're back on a puff stitch again. Remember that we will not be working in the chain we made. Instead, we'll look for the real top loop, which is a little to the left. This is how we'll work for this row of single crochet stitches. And then by repeating rows 2 and 3, we'll get a sample like this one. Now you have seen the differences between these 3 stitches that can have a lot of names, which can cause a lot of confusion. So tell me in the comments which one is your favorite to use on your project. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next week with a new tutorial, and also I'll be posting throughout the week on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day, crochet lovers!